This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Demo.
Papa Hotel Lima Echo November radio check.
Papa Echo November, good afternoon, read you 5.
Good afternoon, read you 5 as well, Papa Echo November.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone, and we're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to read the current, and I think there's about 40 or 50 past editions of the X Chronicles newspaper online with the compliments of our advertisers, go to www.xchronicles-newspaperstand.htm. Exonation, my guest this hour is Michael Milgraum, and we're talking to Michael about a very important topic. The question I'm asking you tonight is, why do people still deny the Holocaust? It's true. People still say it never happened, or they justify it some other way. Heads of state, religious leaders, and hate groups continue to deny the World War II-era Holocaust, even though it's one of the most well-documented events in history. Others minimize the genocide of more than 6 million people by saying it's not unique in history or simply by trying to ignore it. My guest this hour is lawyer and psychologist Michael Milgraum. We're going to be discussing the political, cultural, and emotional causes of Holocaust denial. And Michael warns that it can lead to disastrous results. He is a provocative and thought-provoking guest who challenges you, our listeners, to ask themselves what they are doing to prevent the spread of hate propaganda. And that's exactly what it was. He is a child of a Holocaust survivor and has seen firsthand the devastating effects of hate and violence. And joining me now is the author of a fascinating new book, Never Forget My Soul. My guest this hour, Exonation, is Michael Milgraum. And Michael, welcome to the X-Zone.
Hello, happy to be here.
Tell me, Michael, the Holocaust, why is it still in today's society, and as you have said, it's one of the most well-documented events of our time, people are still saying it never happened. Like, what is it with these people?
Well, I say certainly in terms of documentation, the Holocaust Museum itself in D.C. has 60,000 eyewitness testimonies, just to place it all in context, and it goes way on from that. But what is it with these people? The Holocaust, I believe, changed history in many ways. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways it changed history is it helped people to see what happens when you let hate come to its natural end And when there's a society that's devoted just to power, just to hate, without any morality guiding it and controlling it, and when people see something like that happening, one side of the society becomes scared, but those who want to be devoted to an authoritarian regime who wants to have control and domination of people, then they don't want others to know about it. They want to pretend it didn't happen because that strengthens those who want to oppose those who seek power if they know about what can happen. It made humanity ashamed with itself, and people want to forget that shame so that they can get control and power again.
But why, we've known for years, decades, we've known for centuries that we need to learn from history if we're going to be going forward as a strong, united, humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
why?
Well, that's true. I agree with that. That we've always known that was important.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that history has a very checkered record of actually living up to the principles of human liberty and of human dignity, basically. And there were times that it was horrible. I think the turning point in history when the Holocaust did occur is many people saw that it couldn't go this far anymore. And it gave a great support to people to put the international laws into effect, such as the Convention Against Genocide, and that people would be held to be accountable, that they would be actually taken to court, as it was after the Holocaust. Many of the perpetrators were tried, and so I think there was a changing of attitude, that there was going to be an international consensus, that it wasn't so much that each country was responsible for itself only, but if a country became renegade...
Michael, I've got to take my commercial break. Please stand by. Michael Milgraum's our special guest this hour. www.drmmsolutions.com. We'll be back. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X-Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
I'm shouting all about love. Well, they treated you like a dog, and you were the one who had made it so clear all those years ago. Talking all about how to give. They don't act with much.
Michael Milgram's my special guest this hour, Exonation. He's the author of Never Forget My Soul. His website is www.drmmsolutions.com. Michael, it's almost 70 years since the end of World War II. Why do you think we still need to pay attention to the Holocaust?
Oh, for so many reasons. There's many things that we either have learned or should have learned. One of the reasons that we need to still pay attention to it is it still affects us. It affects us in emotional ways. Mm-hmm. It affects us politically. It affects how we see ourselves. Specifically, as a psychologist, I'm very interested in how it affects us emotionally, and I've observed that in my own life, my mother being a Holocaust survivor, and seeing how there's these like ripples that go on from generation to generation of it was originally symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder that many people had, but then it affected the further generations. But in terms of how it affects the world, I spoke about that a little bit in last segment, that we see we have to take intolerance of others seriously, and we have to speak out to it wherever we see it. We have to put laws into effect that we're not going to tolerate it.
70 years ago, the Holocaust, the end of World War II, those who were in that time frame will never forget it. But how do you explain the Holocaust to the new generation who's just coming around to being able to understand what the Holocaust was? How would you explain it to a new person who has never heard of the Holocaust?
Well, that's an excellent question, and it's so pertinent because I see with today's youth, they really do lose touch if we do not tell the stories. And they really need to be exposed to that history. I think one of the most powerful ways is if they can. There still are some people who were children during that time that they actually could meet with and hear those people tell their stories. Still very powerful stuff. And if not that, to see videos, to go to museums. There's been so much quality stuff written, so many documentaries. There really is so much that they can see. So I mean, they need to be exposed to all these things, but they also need intelligent, perceptive adults to then say to them, therefore what? What does this make you think about the world and about what you're going to commit yourself to as young people moving forward to the future? I think it's a wonderful way to engage in a discussion and get people passionate about their rights and about others' rights and about being involved in the political world.
We talked briefly about this over the last couple of minutes, but, in your book, Never Forget My Soul, you talk about how the horrendous and traumatic events during the Holocaust continue to affect people up until this very day. 70 years later, how does this affect the people?
Well, first of all, we have to draw on something that we call in psychology vicarious traumatization. Basically, by vicarious, it means it's our reaction to what happened to someone else. This is actually in the diagnostic book that describes different conditions, that there's post-traumatic stress disorder, and then there's a type of post-traumatic stress disorder that can come from witnessing someone being tortured or hurt or having something terrible happen to them. But then there's another step away from it, which is fascinating, and that is that people just growing up in the home of someone that's been exposed to that sort of trauma, almost as like they're absorbing it, absorb the sense of some of the attitudes of the people that had the original trauma, attitudes such as the world isn't a safe place, that life is very serious and intense, difficulty relaxing, difficulty just being, having leisure time and being creative without having some purpose, because the point of view of the survivor was you always had to have a goal that you were working towards so you would survive. So these are attitudes that get passed on from generation to generation, and unless the person develops some insight, and I write about this in my book, into what drives them and how life could be different, then it continues on. And so I think it's a very important story, not only about the Holocaust, but many people that have had parents who have been exposed to extreme traumas. I think this is helpful information for them to see how they need to change things so they can influence their children differently.
Let me ask you this, David, and I hesitate in asking you this because I don't know how sensitive you will be to this question. Forgive me if this comes across the wrong way, but what was it like for you as a child growing up in a home with a mom who was a survivor of the Holocaust?
Well, I appreciate the question. It's as I think you sense, it is a difficult question,
yes,
telling that story in detail. But I will say about it, one of the things that I was very aware of growing up was that this was a world where horrible things could happen, where danger could be around the corner, and where a so-called civilized society, people could turn around and turn into the most horrid beasts that you could imagine. And we have to understand, and maybe I didn't know this as a very young child, but I grew to realize this, that Germany was at the height of European culture. It was regarded, everybody looked up to Germany as a place that was an inspiration in its art and in its philosophy, in its learning, and that this could happen in the height of German culture. Then growing up, I felt like this could happen anywhere. It could happen in America, and that there's danger. Life is very dangerous, and people can turn to tremendous good, but to tremendous bad.
In your book, you talk a lot about psychological healing. How can people heal from the past, and not only from the horrendous atrocities of the Holocaust, but even in modern day life with what happened in Boston just a couple of weeks ago, 9/11?
I think that's I'm really glad you bring that up, because I think it is very pertinent, and with 9/11 of course as well. America really in the more recent times has that sense of horror, and I think in some ways everybody throughout the United States carries 9/11 inside of them, and so that was very difficult, still is. And so in terms of healing and in terms of trauma, I think of it that there are three areas that need to be addressed, and one is the relationship between one person and another, because when people have the sense that they've been attacked, that the world is dangerous, it affects our ability to trust other people. That's number one. Number two is our relationship with ourselves. Do we trust ourselves? Do we feel that we have enough strength to deal with this scary world that we have? And for those that have a spiritual aspect of their lives, I talk about all these three things in my book, there is our relationship, healing that relationship with God that let these things happen. So it's really building bridges between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the Almighty, and that sense of trust within, that we can communicate and listen with ourselves and with our deepest needs and find a way to hear that.
How important is spirituality when it comes to healing?
I feel it is essential, and I'll talk about it in a little different way, because when I talk about spirituality, I like to because some people can't relate to a literal God, so I like to talk about meaning in life. There was a psychiatrist by the name of Viktor Frankl, who was a survivor of the camps in the Second World War, and he spoke about the philosophy and the psychology of meaning. He wrote a book called The Man's Search for Meaning. And what he said is people survive from trauma the best, most psychologically intact, if they have meaning in their lives, if they have a higher purpose, if they believe that they're living for something beyond and above them. And so for many people, that is spirituality and that is religion. For others, they find another higher cause that is so important for them. But I believe it's very true. We can't move forward if we don't feel that we have this purpose that makes us strive to do the hard work of healing and of changing ourselves, so we don't get stuck in the patterns of just hiding from the world.
It's like that song from Annie, "The sun will come out tomorrow." You find the inner strength within that gets you through
you have to have
these
hope for
days.
tomorrow.
That's right. Brian, what has been the? Michael, what has been the feedback that you've received from your book?
It's been very good. It's very heartwarming in a sense, because I think I've touched in a place in people in different ways. Certainly those who have been affected by the Holocaust, whether those are people of the Jewish background or others that have been interested in the Holocaust for other ways. But many people, just because it talks about trauma, about healing from trauma, also people that are interested in building a deeper spirituality in their life and actually taking the trauma, seeing that the trauma might actually have led to a deepening of understanding of themselves and maybe even connecting themselves more deeply to God. They can see something positive coming out of the trauma. So it's actually been very rewarding, the responses I've been getting with people. I think it's reached them and touched them in a profound way.
When you're out talking to the public and, talking about your book, meeting people, is there any one question that you keep on getting asked? And if so, what is it?
Let me see. I think a big one has been, why did God let something like this happen?
Wow, yeah.
And that is such a hard question. It is something I talk about in the book, not to give an ultimate answer, but to recognize that people do ask that question and to try to come to at least some understanding, not why God lets these things happen, but what we can do. Maybe take it as marching orders from God of what we're expected to do in this world in the face of such terrible things.
Michael Milgram's my special guest this hour, Exo Nation. He is the author of Never Forget My Soul. His website, www.drmmsolutions.com. This hour, we're talking about the Holocaust. It was 70 years ago when World War II ended, and I cannot understand how in today's society people can still have the audacity to say, nah, it never happened. It just boggles my mind. Michael Milgram and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X-Zone continues right here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com, and you can always listen to the show 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year at www.xzoneradiotv.com/listen.htm. We'll be back. Don't go away. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone radio show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Breaks and movies rang true.
Something in your eyes makes me wanna lose myself. Makes me wanna lose myself in your arms. There's something in your voice that makes my heart beat fast. Hope this feeling lasts the rest of my life. If you
Welcome back, everyone. Michael Milgraum is my special guest this hour. He's the author of a very, I would say, a very important book for today's society. It's called Never Forget My Soul. It's a book about the multigenerational effects of the Holocaust and healing. Now, Michael has lectured nationally and internationally on the effects of Holocaust and lessons to be learned from it. His website is www.drmmsolutions.com. And Michael, welcome back to the X-Zone. And Michael, thank you for writing this book. I really believe from my heart of hearts that people should never forget the atrocities of the Holocaust. And it's up to each and every one of us to make sure that the new generations understand the significance of it and to use every means possible to make sure it never, ever happens again. So thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Now, spirituality, as we talked about, is an important part of your book. We talked about the significance of spirituality and healing. We talked about the connection between either yourself or a deity or a supreme being. You need to get past. You need something to look forward to. But living in today's society, we live in communities. And what is the role of a community in the healing process?
Community is, I believe, in some ways the core of the healing process. If you look at mental health disorders, so many of them have a component of withdrawal from other people or feeling that one is not connected enough with other people or feeling inferior and thus not reaching out to other people. That's the negative side. The positive side is when people start reaching out to others, or if they have an active social life, then it's very highly correlated with healing and improved mental health. It makes a tremendous difference in people's lives.
How does the philosophy of Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who, by the way, wrote the bestseller Man's Search for the Meaning, figure into what you're saying about healing from such extreme trauma?
Well, I think it's a good question. Well, I think I'm going to reference it back, actually, to the title of my book, which you've said is never forget my soul. And there's two parts of that. One is never forget. Everybody talks about never forget, and now people are talking about it in regard to 9/11 and other horrific events. But originally it was talking about the Holocaust, and I put a little twist on it. It's not just never forget the terrible things. It's never forget my soul, meaning that we have to get to the heart of ourselves and the heart of others to actually improve the world, to see what's positive. So to get back to Viktor Frankl, what he was really emphasizing is people cannot heal emotionally or otherwise if they just look at their sickness. They need to see what they're alive for. They need not only to look forward to a fun time tomorrow, but they need to look forward to a meaningful time, that they believe that their life has a purpose, that they believe that they are important, that they matter. And, you know, this is what all people need, because we all realize that we're mortal. We're only on this earth for a short amount of time. So to not despair with that knowledge, we have to feel like we're building something important, whether it's part of humanity or part of spreading important truth or doing kindness to others. When we're doing that, we feel like we're putting something in the world that's lasting, that rises above our lives, that, you know, have a beginning and an end.
We talked briefly about post-traumatic stress disorder, and, you know, we hear about it with many of the members of the armed forces who are coming back from the different theaters around the world. And I was wondering if you could just help us to better understand what some of the signs of PTSD are.
Certainly. Well, post-traumatic stress disorder really has three components, four in a way. The first component, as people usually understand, is just that someone has been exposed to something extreme in terms of its life-threatening, or that it was threatening bodily harm or did bodily harm to someone, or in the case of rape, some very extreme assault on the body. That's number one. And then there's the effects of it. One effect of it is it gets stuck in the mind, and the person, whether it's nightmares, whether it's just flashbacks of the experience, different ways that it comes back to the mind again and again and again, and they can't get rid of it. And another aspect is not just that it stays there, but all these efforts to try to somehow distance oneself from the intensity of that memory. And that can be just trying to push it out of one's mind, distancing from other people, just trying not to think about the future because the future is too scary. All these things to try to push oneself away from the intensity of that emotion. And then the last aspect is the physical. And the physical can be so gut-wrenchingly uncomfortable. It's extreme anxiety as experienced in physical symptoms, such as the inability to sleep. The brain can't focus. You can't concentrate. Very strong startle response if someone slams the door. These things showing that the body is at absolute alert all the time. Like, you know, the gun is still being fired that someone experienced 2 years ago. You know, so it's very hard to move on. That really characterizes what PTSD is all about.
How does one treat a person with PTSD? How does yourself as a psychologist? How do you get the person past the events that are holding them back?
Well, here's the key. The current understanding of PTSD is the problem remains because people try to bury that experience. Even though they keep on re-experiencing it, part of it gets pushed away, and so they don't experience the whole thing. There might be gaps in the memory of it, or they might be able to tell you the story of it, but somehow they keep emotional distance from it so there's different ways that this happens. But because they haven't truly experienced it and acknowledged all aspects of their experience, and they're afraid of doing so, it's their fear that keeps them stuck with this experience so they can't move on. So really what's essential in doing work with these people is getting them to tell their story slowly, talk about how they're feeling physically and emotionally as they're telling their story, and gradually over time get used to dealing with it and get used to not running away from some things that might trigger that experience. For example, I work with people who have been tortured in foreign prisons. They might have an irrational fear of a policeman in the United States. So instead of crossing the street when they see the policeman, I would work with them to develop the courage to stay on the same side of the street, expose yourself to the thing you feel afraid of, and eventually it's going to decrease the intensity of their response.
We touched on this briefly before, but how has being a child of a Holocaust survivor, how has this impacted your life?
Well, I'll talk about the different aspect now that you asked the question. Before I spoke to you about how serious survivors and children of survivors can be about life, and the anxiety and difficulty relaxing. But I think there's a flip side of this, and especially for the children of survivors, there is often a very strong sense of mission. So if you kind of switch around that over seriousness to something positive, and that is a mission to help people, to cure them, to improve the world, so that people aren't violent and hate and don't express hate to each other in the same way anymore. There's a very high proportion of children of survivors that actually went to the mental health field. So that's really a case in point of this. And so that's, as I was talking to you briefly before the show, I started my life as an attorney. Not started my life, started my career as an attorney, and felt that there was just something missing for me. And so I went back and retrained and became a psychologist. And I think it was this process that wasn't mature enough yet when I was younger to see what my calling was. And I saw that the calling was really to help people confront and heal their pain. And I think that's really been always part of my life. Now that I look back in it, that I'm acutely aware of people's pain. I'm very sensitive to even when people aren't talking about it. I can read it in their body language, and I want to do something about it. So that really guided my professional path in life, and I'm quite glad that I did it. I get a lot of sense of satisfaction from the work I do.
Tell me, how do you keep your faith in humanity? With all you've seen, with all you've been through, how do you keep faith in humanity?
Well, I think the best answer to that is working as I do as a psychologist, giving counseling to people. Looking back, I have not worked with one person who I feel that I saw nothing positive in them. And I've dealt with some pretty hardened people. I've dealt with people that have been spouse abusers. I've counseled people who are criminals, various things. But because of my training and because of what I'm supposed to do as a therapist, I always look for the good, and I've always found it. And so if I was able to, in my work, find something good in each person, and some of them were more successful than others in finding the life mission, but I had my sense that each person had a life mission, that they could do something positive with their lives, then I just add one person plus one person, and you add up to humanity. My goal, and I hope our goal as a world, is to help people find what is positive in them, and then to try to change institutions so it guides them in a better direction.
How does it feel to have your history and work with present survivors of torture?
It's difficult, and that part of my work is actually a little piece of serendipity, because I didn't set out when I started as a psychologist to work with as many survivors of political tortures as I do. I have a varied practice, but a significant amount of what I do is working with immigrants, and a significant part of that is working with people that are seeking political asylum. And so I hear stories. I hear horrible stories not about the past now, but what's happening in many of them African countries, other places as well, but how people use torture and humiliation and intimidation and harsh interrogation to dominate a population. So I think it's ironic with the past I have that I've come to this, but maybe that's just where I'm supposed to be. it's in some ways it's disconcerting to see how the world has changed so little. In other ways, it gives me a sense of satisfaction that those who are seeking asylum in the United States, many of them that I've worked with actually have received it, a recognition that the United States is going to give safe haven to people. And there's a bit of sadness in me to realize that so many during the Second World War sought safe haven in the United States, and the United States basically turned a blind eye. It was very isolationist. It said we don't have a place for these people. So now I feel I do my little part to give that safe haven to those who are seeking it.
What would make a person turn into the type of person that would actually torture another human being? Are they born Are they born that way?
That is a great and a difficult question. One of the things that comes to mind is an experiment done by someone that has my namesake. His name is Stanley Milgram. No relation, and the spelling is a little different. He doesn't have A-U in the end of his name. It's just M-I-L-G-R-A-M. But he did one of the most famous experiments in psychology. They were called the obedience experiments. And what he did is he got people, these experimental subjects, to come into a room, and they were told they were doing a learning experiment that had some electric shock involved, nothing that strong. But then they had actors in another room, and these people were trained to keep on having stronger and stronger responses. And on this machine that they were shocking people with, eventually there were these settings that looked very scary, like it was very high shocks. And the person in the other room was shouting, "I'm going to have a heart attack, I can't take this." And then the experimenter would stand over the subject and would urge him, "No, you signed up for this experiment. You have to do it. You're going to ruin the data. You have to finish it." So what Milgram was trying to show is that maybe those who acted in the ways they did in the Second World War weren't such an aberration, but anybody under the face of an authority pressing upon them, telling them they have to do something, might do this terrible thing.
Michael, hold on to this thought, because I've got to take a commercial break here. Exonation, Michael Milgram is our special guest. One hell of a topic.
Yes, it is.
The question we've been asking is, why do people still deny the Holocaust? Michael and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X-Zone continues here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
This feeling lasts the rest of my life.
With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, After the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
I got to say it and it's hard for me. You got me crying like I thought I would never be. Love is believing, but you let me down. How can I love you when you ain't around? And I get to the morning and you never call.
Welcome back, everyone. Michael Milgram is our special guest this hour. He's the author of Never Forget My Soul. His website is www.drmmsolutions.com. And first of all, Michael, thanks very much for joining us this hour. It's a very important topic. And just keep up the great work, my friend.
Thank you.
Michael, the American cult of self. Tell me about it and how it leads to the callous indifferences to others.
Okay. Well, I think that there is a great amount of pursuing of one's own pleasure in the United States. And, of course, that was part of the Declaration of Independence, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, what is true pleasure? You know, is true pleasure having the latest version of the iPod and, going on cruises all one's life? Or maybe what Viktor Frankl was really implying is that's not true happiness, let's say. Let's say the difference between happiness and pleasure. Happiness is something higher, and it's knowing that your life has a purpose and knowing that you leave something meaningful behind and that other people remember you, that you did something to improve the world.
So if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so people have to get out of their own concerns and realize there's other people in the world, and they'll be happy, and they'll give something to other people by doing so.
Tell me, Michael, are there any new books for you in the future?
That is, thank you for actually asking, because I have a book that just came out now in a totally different genre, and that is in poetry. It's a very interesting project that I just published. My father is a poet, and my daughter is as well. And I've written for many years poetry. So it's called Poetry of Three Generations. It's on some similar themes that we've spoken to tonight, but from the poetic track, and talking about spirituality and relationships and about healing. And, it's available in bookstores now.
Michael, we've got about a minute left. What would you like to tell the X-Zone Nation around the world? What message would you like to give them about the Holocaust and its importance in today's society?
Well, first of all, that history it's essential to know your history. And if you don't, you should study, you should learn, you should talk with people. Because if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you're going. And a nation that doesn't know where it's going is lost. A world that doesn't know where it's going is lost. We need to connect with each other. We need to connect with something above us, whether that's God or meaning. We have to find something that we're living for. If not, we're just drifting. And if you're just drifting, you're going down. And the forces of hate and domination and anarchy and those that want to destroy the lives of others will be in place. And that's a very scary prospect, as we learned from the Holocaust.
Michael, I want to thank you once again for joining us tonight. This is a very important topic. And I just hope, my friend, that you keep up your great work and never let the message die.
Thank you so much. It was great talking with you.
Great talking to you too, Michael, and congratulations on your new book. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Michael Milgram. He is the author of a book that I'm sure will touch many hearts. Never Forget My Soul. His website is www.drmmsolutions.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour. as we continue here in the X Zone. And of course, we're heard on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, and now on Turquoise Radio throughout Europe. We'll be back. Don't go away.